Yo, welcome back to another video. We're here for round 3 of the V8 Juniors Season 2 at the Nürburgring this time. Another German track here. Had a decent qualifying, managing to grab 7th place. Could have probably even had 5th or something, but yeah, starting P7 is not too bad at all. Going into turn 1, one of the tightest turns in the game. It's getting a bit bunched up here 4 wide as we exit there, but managed to get through that relatively unharmed, or well, I spoke too soon as I'm going to get 2 pushes there. Dropping me into 12th place now temporarily, so yeah, losing a bunch of positions, so my good qualifying pretty much negated now as we go into turn 3 here behind Chris and Aaron, cutting into turn 4 now, keeping it in 3rd to try and minimize the wheel spin, which I've managed to do now, following these 2 guys in front down this short straight, going into the next S of turn 5 and 6, just staying back a bit, being a bit cautious here as they're too wide up in front. Into turn 6, they're going to cut back for a good apex, but just 2 cars in front of me, so I can't really accelerate when I wanted to. So pretty much a group of 4 cars now fighting up ahead as we run down into the hairpin here. Aaron, he's just going to completely miss his braking point. He's going to snipe a gap between the cars and not take out anyone, but yeah, free position for me, so I'll definitely take that. Getting an okay exit out of the hairpin. Going up into the Schumacher S here, just underestimating how slow Chris was going, so we make some contact there. We both managed to recover, though just lose a bit of time and momentum up the hill now into this next S here on the brakes, quite nicely there, hooking up with a late apex. Chris, though, just runs very wide there, so into this next turn I'm going to try and look for a cutback here, as he does have the inside line, and I think it seems to have worked, so tucking into the slipstream as well. Going into this fast kink on what is technically the back straight, a bit sketchy in these cars as they really don't like that turn. Didn't manage to find a way past him there. Going into the braking zone for the chicane at the 150 board, running into the back of him as well. Not a great braking zone from me there. Sui almost catching up and managing to get past, but going into the final turn, I think I will have P10 in the bag. Moving on to lap 2 here, still staying on the back of Chris, wasn't able to find a way past him. Get a good run out of the Schumacher S though, as we go into this next S here on the inside, just showing my nose there, so he has to give me some space. He runs out wide, leave him the space on the outside though. Going into this next turn, just going to swoop to the inside. That gap was closing. We made a bit of contact, but it was fine. A legitimate move, if I may say so myself. But yeah, a couple laps later, catching up to this group of 4 here who were fighting amongst each other, managed to build a bit of a gap to Chris here. I had decent pace at the beginning of race 1 here, and well, this group goes up to P5, so I'd love to gain a couple of positions here, going around the outside of Blazer there through turn 4, as he was crossing swords basically with Rabbit. Their cars, I think, were slightly connected, but yeah, anyway, down this straight into turns 5 and 6, right behind Rabbit here, pretty much glued to his rear bumper through that turn. Into turn 6 now, again pretty much just pushing him through the turn there, but he's holding on to his position quite well. Going into the hairpin now, which of course is a good overtaking opportunity, or a decent overtaking opportunity. I'm just going to miss my braking point there, run into the back of Rabbit. Really well done from him there to keep his composure. I'm going to make sure I let him pass, but in doing that, Blazer does manage to slip past as well. So I drop back down into 9th place, so it really hasn't gone well for me there. Through the Schumacher S, just get a big kick of oversteer, and just get all out of shape through those 2 turns. So losing even more time now, so it's not gone well as we go into this next S before the back straight. Catching up a bit though, the Blazer and Rabbit, as I think they were a bit out of shape, but through this next turn here, just going to get a big kick of oversteer, which is kind of going to kill my chances to try and get a better position slightly. Now, moving on to lap 5 here, kind of dropped off the back of that group here. Chris is going to go for a move down the inside of turn 1, almost manages to make that work as we go into turn 2 now. He's on my outside, doing really well to hold it there actually, as I get a bit of oversteer. He's stayed on the outside into turn 3 now, just going to try and cut in front here, which I've managed to do. I'm going to keep it in 3rd gear here to get a good exit, so I managed to defend 9th place there at least. I don't want to be defending 9th place, I want to be moving forward, want to be attacking the guys in front of me, but they do have a bit of a gap, so it's not going to be easy. And in fact, I managed to make a big mistake, so I fell back behind Chris again, so I'm gonna, it looks like it's going to be a fight for 9th place then. as we exit turn 6 here. I think I have gotten a bit of a better run, just tucking into the slipstream here on this run down into the hairpin. As I said, a decent overtaking opportunity on the brakes. They're just a bit later, sliding in up the inside, parking it on the apex. A very well executed move. Good driving from both of us there to avoid contact. You see what can happen when it goes wrong. That was the incident with Rabbit. But what isn't good driving is this turn right here, as I'm just going to miss the apex. And out of the next, on the next curve, I'm kind of going to spin out almost. I do manage to catch it, but I know what's coming into the next S. I knew he was going to go up the inside, so I delay my turn in, let him shoot up the inside there. He goes a bit deep. I cut back to the outside for the next S there. Going to go for another cutback, do the over and under there. Managed to pull up side by side as we go down this back straight here into the difficult kink. We somehow managed to hold it too wide. I honestly don't know how. Up next though is the tricky chicane there, and on the brakes I'm just going to lock up, just miss my braking point a bit, which is going to bring Twisty into the fight here as well, as Chris out of the chicane is going to manage to run up the road just a bit. Now moving into the final turn as well. I'm going to have two cars right behind me, so it's not going to be easy there. I'm going to get a couple bumps from Twisty, but I do manage to hold on to my position here. So not optimal here, dropping down into 10th place again, but luckily for me, Chris thought this final lap was a cooldown lap, so he's just going to start doing some dank drift. So yeah, I'm going to manage to get one free position, which of course I appreciate very much, Chris. Thank you very much. So I thought this race was a freeload and I just had to drive home to P9, but if you do dumb shit like this, it's definitely not going to be 9th place for sure, as I make another mistake through the S there. Twisty catching up and getting up my inside into this next S here on the brakes. Going to try and look around the outside as he's a bit cautious on the inside there. Managed to do so into this next turn here. Going to try and keep it in the middle of the track, kind of pivot the car mid-corner and get a good exit, which I managed to do there. I'd say well played from me. Also good driving from Twisty, giving space and everything through the kink there. Managed to get through that fine. Now I just have to make sure that I get this chicane right, which I managed to do on the brakes. They're going to take it cautiously here. I have two cars to defend from, so I don't want to be making any mistakes. They're going to be fighting each other as well, so that does play into my hands going into the final turn here. If I can get a good exit, that should be P9 secured, and in fact it was. So we're going to jump into race 2 here, of course, with the rolling code 60 start. Going under the start lights, that's when we're going to start racing here. Into turn 1, dropped off the back of the pack just a small bit, going into the hairpin here, hooking up quite nicely. A lot of cars around, but pretty much contact free. But as we go into this next turn here, I'm going to turn into turn 2, just make some contact with Rabbit. I think both of our cars were just slightly unsettled. We managed to catch it though. But into turn 3, I suddenly find myself on the inside of 4 wide. No one could turn, especially not me, and I end up in the tire barrier because, well, of course I do. Just my luck, really. So dropping down into last place, so I might as well not have done race 1 at all. So that's 2 pretty bad starts out of 2, really, both of which I couldn't really have done anything about. So down into last place with an almost 400-foot gap with the guys ahead, so a lot of work to do, and at this point I'm tilted off the face of the planet, really, because I'm sick and tired of having these really bad starts. But yeah, pretty much any position in the points now is going to be a decent recovery, I'd say, in my book, as I have 3 Pertec cars in front of me, which I want to try and get past as quickly as possible. But yeah, it's definitely not going to be easy. As you can see, the field is already spread out quite a bit. As we go up the Schumacher S's, they're beautifully taken, hooking up with the curbs very nicely. They're just backing off a tiny bit to not run into 18th place there as we go into this next chicane, braking just after the bridge there, going around the outside. Pretty good move there, up into 18th place, and going into the next S's. 2 guys up ahead, they're going to have a collision, so I'm going to manage to gain another 2 free positions, up into 16th place now at least. So moving on a bit later, going into the hairpin here again, just going to lunge it up the inside of Aaron there. Well done to him for the awareness and giving me space as well. A bit awkward though, as I was very close to 2 other cars there. We all managed to make that work. Now up the hill side by side with Aaron into the Schumacher S here. I'm going to have the far superior line, just go around the outside there and manage to claim 15th place. Have such a good run, in fact, I'm going to think about going for a lunge up the inside here on 14th place. Just misjudged how far to the inside he was. Make a bit of contact. I wanted to wait up, but well, I had Aaron immediately up my backside to push me past pretty much. So I'd say a bit of a harsh move, but I'd say fair nonetheless, as I managed to get up into 14th place here on lap 3. So I've been making decent progress here in the beginning of the race, and I believe I am now in the points. I think points go down to 15th or something, as I managed to catch up to JMJ going through the chicane there, get a good exit as well, as we're now going to run up into the final turn there, getting on the brakes quite nicely, and I'm going to see a gap developing on the inside, but then he's just going to turn in or something. I really don't know what he was doing, so I lose out quite a bit from that. Lose speed and a position as well, back down into 15th place, so really not an optimal sequence or an optimal last turn really. However, Aaron, he's just going to completely miss his braking point once again, so another free position for me, as I'm now going to have my second attempt to try and find a way past JMJ into turn 2 here. Going to look up the inside, and he's just going to understeer wide, or I really don't know. I'm just going to get the position basically into turns 3 and 4 here. If I can get a good exit out of turn 4, I think I should have 13th place in the bag, and I managed to do so indeed. Now, cutting on to lap 6 here, I was catching a group of 4 cars, Chris, Sui, Blazer, and Assassin, who were all fighting with each other. They were like 600 feet up the road, but their fighting really allowed me to catch up. However, Chris and Sui, they've gone into the pits here. However, Assassin, Blazer, and myself, we're going to stay out. But going into turn 1, as you can see, I'm trying to go up the inside of Assassin there. Almost managed to make that work. However, he's still going to be just about alongside, and this really isn't helping us, as if any 3 of us fight with each other, we're going to lose time to the guys in the pits. However, I felt like I was faster than both Assassin and Blazer, but of course, in the process of trying to get past, you are inevitably going to lose time, so it was a really tricky situation, really a bit annoying. Should have probably timed my pit stops better, and as you can see, as the pit stop phase has now concluded, I'm going to come out in a net 13th place, so in fact losing 2 positions, I believe, from where I was before. Actually, I think I might have just come out in the same position as where I was. So yeah, of course, 13th place, not an optimal position. Still relatively close to Assassin. Going to go down the inside here, and well, of course we're going to get connected, because of course that's the most logical thing to happen in that scenario. Really annoying, and that loses us about 2-3 seconds of time. Assassin told me to keep the position. I think the move was on, definitely. It's just for some reason our cars got welded together, so we lose a bunch of time here, and I think a top 10 is almost out of question at this point, as they've just gotten so far up the road. I'm going to try and hunt down Chris, and moving on to lap 11, that is exactly what I managed to do. Pulled a big gap to Assassin as well, had a couple of decent laps here. As we go into turn 2, Chris just going to run out wide. I'm going to have a look up the inside, want to pull out though, don't quite manage to do so because I saw the contact happening before it actually did. Into this next turn here, it's going to be a repeat move of what I did in race 1, I believe, but this time it's to try and get past instead of to try and defend. Get a good run as well, using second gear for the better acceleration, up into 11th place, and I think at this point, if I can put in some really good laps, I might be able to catch Sui, and maybe a top 10 might still be possible. Lap guide time. So yeah, we're going to jump on for my fastest clean lap of the race, going into turn 1, braking at the 150 board, just missing the apex by about a car's width there, but that's not too tragic at this turn. Getting a good run into turn 2 here, looking for a late apex, managed to do so quite nicely. Just a tiny bit of slip from the rear end there, but not too bad. Going into turn 3 now, keeping it in third, try and maintain the stability, looking for a late apex, trying to keep it towards the left. Not optimal, could have probably tried and stay more to the left. I do manage to get a good exit though, using just a bit of extra tarmac there to straighten up my run. Going into turn 5 now, braking at the line on the right hand side, chucking it in, looking for an apex at around the tire barrier, trying to keep it to the left here. A bit too late on the brakes, just missed the apex by about half a car width there, but not too bad, as I managed to get a decent run out of the turn nonetheless. As we make our way down this straight into the hairpin now, braking at the patch of grass there. Could have maybe broken just a bit later, kind of missed the apex really. You want to try and double apex it, I think is the best way to do it. Do get a good exit though, without too much slip out of the hairpin, going into the very tricky Schumacher S, just running the curb a tiny bit, get a small kick of oversteer, which I managed to ride beautifully, and I get through there quite nicely. You could have probably gained another 2/10 or so if you took that even better. But going into the next S, braking just under or just after the bridge, chucking it in for a later apex, and swing it out wide here, try and get a better line through the next turn, looking for a late apex again. Quite nicely done, bit of a slide, but we're going to be 8/10 up anyway, so yeah, pretty good lap so far. Through the kink there beautifully, nice and settled, just full speed into the chicane, braking just after the 150 board on the brakes hard, just clipping the apex there, and using a lot of the curb for the second part of the chicane, getting a good exit as again into the final turn, dropping it into second, and hooking up with an apex around the beginning of the Armco. And that's going to round out the final lap. It's going to be a 12.6. I had an invalid 12.1. I think the lap before actually, and I was catching Sui, but it just wasn't enough as I made a couple too many mistakes. But yeah, quite an unfortunate round. I'd say a lot of missed opportunities. I think in race 1 I could have probably been up there fighting for 5th or 6th place. Same goes for this race. I think I could have probably gotten 7th or so. But yeah, just wasn't to be. Quite a bit of bad luck in terms of the start. Made too many mistakes during the race, especially going through the Schumacher S. It's a very difficult corner. But yeah, great job again to my teammate Yemi for winning the second race, and I think he came 3rd or so in the first race, so great job by him carrying the team. But I think that's going to be it for this video. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'll catch you guys